Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of What's Hot with Sea of Tranquility. And today it's all about the books in this episode, right? So I have a trio of books that I've gotten through. It's taken me forever to get through some of these because we've had so many requests for book reviews. But these are all pretty interesting stuff. Interesting things to read for you guys to check out. The first we're gonna take a look. We're gonna review them based on size. We're going to do the smallest one first. So this is by Laura Shenton. This is Jethro Tull Into the 80s. Right there, of course, you see Jethro Tull from the A period, wearing those white uniforms. There's Mr. Jobson out front. Anthony, you got this book? Yeah, this is pretty cool. So this is from Weimer Publishing. All right, so this is just under 200 pages. All told. Yeah, I mean, once you get up to the discography, it's probably about 150 pages. And basically this is covering, obviously, Jethro Tull, the A album, Broadsword and the Beast, Under Wraps, Crest of a Knave, and Rock Island as the main albums. But they also do talk a little bit about some of Ian's solo stuff in here as well. And this is just a breakdown. Each chapter tackles one of the albums. And it has lots of like interview segments in here, as well as clips taken from text taken from like reviews of concerts from all of these tours, as well as album reviews. So it's an interesting read because it's not as much opinions from the author as opposed. I mean, there is some in here, but it's more about drawing in reviews from various different sources of these albums and these tours. But there are also interview segments with folks that were in and out of the band during this time. So pretty cool if you like 80s Jethro Tull music, and I think obviously the least celebrated decade perhaps. Especially when you compare to the 70s albums, but always kind of cool to revisit these. And in recent year or two, I've listened to a lot of these 80s albums because, of course, Jethro Tull has been releasing the box sets, right? So they A and Broadsword and the Beast were fairly recently. You do have some cool photographs in here, right, from that time period in the band. Interesting to read little quotes from Mr. Jobson, right? Talking about how he was going from one big band to the next big band to the next big band, and after Tull he kind of wanted to just go do his own thing. He was kind of tired of being a hired gun, so to speak, right? And he's like, my time in Tull was only ever going to be a year. Cool shots of Martin. So yeah, this is a good quick read. I actually read this in just like a 2-hour little bedtime sitting, right? And although weirdly enough, Rock Island is given like very, very little press at all. I mean, the Rock Island chapter is really, really short compared to some of the other ones. Crest of the Knave and Under Wraps, which is my least favorite Tull album, is given a good amount of time, and interesting to hear people's opinions on the Under Wraps album all these years later, right? But yeah, in the back you've got a nice little discography with the information on each of the albums and stuff. So cool little book. Like I said, from Weimer Publishing, Jethro Tull Into the 80s. If you want to go investigate some cool information on their 80s albums. So that's the first one here today. Second one we've got is a book that was sent to me by a writer who also follows Sea of Tranquility quite a bit. In fact, he thanked us in the back of the book and wrote a nice little blurb on us in the back. Pete Pardo is a genuine expert in all things prog and metal. His Sea of Tranquility YouTube channel is brimming with opinion, history reviews, ephemera, and fun. I have much respect for Pardo and the podcast he does with author Martin Popoff and a panel of fellow devotees. Whether you agree or disagree with the opinions matters not, for you're guaranteed to be entertained and learn something new too. Cool website as well. Thank you, I appreciate it. So this is Raphael Quirino, Adventures in 12/8 Time. And as you can imagine, this is a book all about kind of the history of progressive rock, right? I'll read you the back in a second. From the Court of the Crimson King to the search for one's identity in our complex world, Adventures in 12/8 Time is a love song to progressive music then and now. Across these pages, Rafael Quirino explores the legends and new heroes of the genre from past to present. Get reacquainted with the Giants, Jethro Tull, Genesis, Yes, ELP, Straubs, King Crimson, Kansas, etc., etc. Discover new heroes, Big Big Train, Riverside, Marillion, Lonely Robot, Porcupine Tree. It's a trip that takes the reader from deep ocean depths to the far reaches of the cosmos, with stops along the journey to connected genres like metal, electronica, new age, new wave, and classical. Raphael has written about pop music since his high school days and worked within the Canadian music industry since 1984. He published a biography of Ani DiFranco titled Righteous Babe in 1999. He is the author of reviews for his music blog, www.qexperience.weebly.com. Okay. It's a big book. So this is just about almost 500 pages. No pictures or anything in here. It's just all text. And basically what he does is he breaks down and he goes into lengths telling everybody about how when he was a teenager he got seriously into prog, like I'm assuming in the 70s, and then kind of got tired of it and fell out of it for quite a while and then got back into it later in life. So this is about discovering it early on as it's happening and then leaving it behind and then coming back to it again. And what he does is he basically at the beginning of the book, which he calls it's part 2 actually, Gods and Legends, and that's the first big chunk of the book. He tackles some of the main bands in the genre. So he's got and there are 20 chapters in total. Genesis, King Crimson, the Moody Blues, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Yes, Pink Floyd, Jethro Tull, Electric Light Orchestra, Vandergraaf Generator, Gentle Giant, Roxy Music, Manfred Mann's Earth Band, Rush, Alan Parsons Project, Kansas, Straubs, Kate Bush, Marillion, Steve Wilson, and Riverside. So some of you may think, well, there's probably bands missing there, and does Kate Bush belong amongst the gods and legends of prog? That's arguable. I know a lot of people love Kate Bush, right? Does the Straubs belong in that section? Does Alan Parsons belong there? Is Roxy Music really prog, right? Riverside, fairly more recent band, not that recent, but so again, this is more of kind of his opinions on this, right? And each of the chapters kind of breaks down the albums, and he talks about the band and whatnot, and some of his favorite albums and whatnot. It's cool stuff because again, it's all based on his experiences with the albums. But what I find a little interesting is like for some of the bands, he goes album by album and he rates the albums. Gives it like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. And then some of the bands, he doesn't do that at all. So it's kind of like inconsistent there. I would have liked to have seen one consistent format from band to band to band. So and it's weird, and there's no kind of rhyme or reason why he does it for some and not for others, which is kind of strange. Like I'm looking at it right now. So he's got all the Kansas albums rated, and then the Alan Parsons are not. But they're all in chronological order. So here on Rush, he's got them rated. But then on Manfred Mann's Earth Band, they're not. Okay, so it varies, and quite frankly, the majority of them aren't rated, which is kind of strange. Does ELO belong? I love ELO. Are they really a prog band? They've got some prog stuff, right? So for me, it's like there are probably other legends that should have been in here other than some of these, but that's okay. It's his book, and I totally get that. Then he's got the B list, which is part 3, and here we have some of the lesser-known bands. He's got Audience, pretty obscure band, right? It's like Kevin Ayers, Barclay James Harvest, Bebop Deluxe, Camel, Captain Beyond, Caravan, Coliseum, Coliseum 2, Cressida, Curved Air, East of Eden, Egg, Brian Eno. Brian spelled incorrectly. There's a lot of mistakes in this book. Whoever was the editor on this book just didn't do a great job because there's mistakes all over the place. Family, Froop, Gong, Griffin, Roy Harper, Hatfield and the North, Hawkwind, Henry Cow, Steve Hillage, Horselips, Jackson Heights, Jade Warrior, National Health, Nectar, Procol Harum, Quintessence, Rare Bird, Renaissance Sky, Soft Machine, Spring, Stack Ridge, String Driven Things, Supertramp, and 10cc. No Styx, there's a lot of bands missing here, right? You could have done a ton of other stuff, but there's lots of Canterbury bands that could have made it in here as well. We got then part 4 is in Other Lands. You got the Italians, PFM, Leorme, Neutrals, Banco Lacunda della Fate, etc. And there's others mentioned. That's pretty good. Germans, Triumvirate, Eloy, Kraftwerk, Popol Vuh. He's got the French, Atoll, and Shylock, Taipon. Canadians, Harmonium, Max Webster, Saga, Slosh, Mystery, etc. The Dutch ones, Exception, Focus, Trace, Kayak, etc. The Americans, Starcastle, Crack the Sky, Hands, Styx, etc. Like Styx, I think could have been in the other section, right? But it's kind of cool that he gave like a separate chapter for the American bands that kind of fall a little bit under the radar, right? And then postmodern prog, and here he's got all sorts of different things. So this is mostly the 90s, late 80s and 90s and up. You got Anathema, Aristocrats, Laurie Anderson, Big Train, Dream Theater, Engineers, Flower Kings, Flying Colors, so on and so forth. Muse, Opeth, lots more. There's a whole section on electronic. There's also prog jazz, so here's more of the fusion bands. You got Chick Corea, various bands, Miles Davis, Mahavishnu, Herbie Hancock, Jan Hammer, Pat Metheny, Jean-Luc Ponty, so on and so forth. Then what I find is a really interesting chapter is the whole great prog metal debate, he calls it. So here he talks about bands like Epica, Coheed and Cambria, Fates Warning, Haken, Halloween, Iron Maiden, right? Camelot, King's X, Mastodon, Nightwish, Queensryche, Symphony X, Tool, Within Temptation. And then kind of like what he calls close to the edge, the outliers. And he calls the classic rocker conundrum. And that's the bands that kind of like, are they really prog, right? So Angel, Asia, David Bowie, Deep Purple, Zeppelin, Uriah Heep, Zappa, Queen, and so on and so forth. Lots of other bands that, you on face value, you might think that's not prog at all. But then the more you listen to some of the music, you're like, well, that could, and quite frankly, Kate Bush could have been included in there for me anyway. And there's some bands here, like Spooky Tooth and Cat Stevens and Al Stewart, Traffic, right? The bands that we've debated about for ages and ages. And then he has a whole chapter on the New Wave thing. There's the New Age chapter. There's classical composers and whatnot. And like I said, it's a very interesting book. He's obviously got a lot of interest. He tackles a lot of bands here. There's a lot that are not included here, but you can't include everything. I don't think this ever was meant to be all-encompassing, but these are the bands that he's familiar with. Like I said, you can argue all day about whether some bands deserve to be in one section or another, right? That's kind of like my thing as I was reading this. I'm like, I would have put them here. But that's what writing your own book is all about, right? You have your own perceptions and your own opinions on things. So I think it's an interesting read. It's a big book. It took a while to get through this, and like I said, there's no pictures, so no photographs, no images of anything. So it's just all straight text. So it's like I said, 500 pages. It's a big one, but laid out pretty well. I think this is definitely different from other like history of prog books that I've read. So really good. The mistakes and spelling errors throughout, that he even gave a sheet of errata, but I found way more than what he put on the sheet, but that's okay. I mean, it's not a big deal. But I think this is definitely a fun read, and I'll put the link down below to all these books. I'll put the link down below for everybody to go check out and see if you're interested in ordering. So definitely support Raffaele. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how he says his name. Adventures in 12/8 Time. If you're a voracious reader on all things prog, I think you'll want to definitely check this out. So that's the next book. And last but certainly not least, the biggest book of all. Oh, this thing must weigh like 10 pounds. All right, so this is Max Webster High Class, the definitive edition by Bob Wagner, with a foreword by Ron Sexsmith. So I've actually had this for a while, and I apologize to Bob for not getting to this sooner. We had planned to have him on the show to promo it, and it was like in the fall and then the holidays, and just he was really busy, I was really busy, and we just never got around to having him on the show. Although I did appear with him and Martin Popoff on Guitar Hack's channel, promoting this, and the first edition of this is now sold out, but they are doing a second edition. So if you haven't jumped on this already, you can go put your pre-order in and check this out. I mean, this is a monster book. Like I said, this is heavy. This is a big coffee table book, but man, is this packed with all sorts of factoids and photographs galore of the great Max Webster. There's the author right there. And so, again, I'm going to just kind of take you through this. This is absolutely gorgeous. If you are a fan, true fan of Max Webster, there is fantastic color photographs, black and white photographs throughout this book, concert shots, information about the albums. It takes you through all the albums and the history of the band from early on, the pre-Max Webster days. It doesn't get much better than this. Love seeing it. I'm a big fan of Kim Mitchell and his guitar work and his vocals. But man, you get to see him using all these different guitars live throughout the years. Tons of information on concerts, the tours. Look at this. Everything you could possibly want to know about Max Webster, and then some stuff that you didn't even think you wanted to know, and you'll know after reading this. Be prepared, though. Like I said, this is an enormous book. This is, God, how many pages is this? This is probably right around 400 pages. Yeah, this is about 400 pages, but because the book is so large, it just makes it makes it seem larger than life, right? Just even hold this up is like, right. So you have the discography in the back. So this is one of the most impressive books I've seen in recent years, and a true labor of life for the author. Labor of love for the author. I mean, he worked on this for years, and I know how proud he is of this book. So yeah, definitely. I'm going to put the link down below. Like I said, the first edition is out of print, but they are doing up another print run. So if you get your pre-order in, you can get yourself a copy of this. It's not cheap, but if you are a big fan and you love this sort of thing, you have to have this book. You have to have this book. One of the most impressive books I've ever seen on any band, right? And you would think, oh, Max Webster, they weren't around that long. They only have a small handful of albums, but man, every little tidbit of information you can get in here, including lots of interviews and statements and quotes from the band, and yeah, this is all you need to know about Max Webster. So go check it out. And that's what we got for you here on this episode. We'll have another book review episode next week. Count Ralphus and myself will be getting together to talk about a couple of Eddie Van Halen books that we've read recently, and we're going to get Steve Rosen back on the channel. Steve, of course, wrote the great Tone Chaser book that I just finished. Steve's going to come on the show, and Ralph and I are going to talk to Steve about this book and about Eddie once again. So if you didn't catch my interview with Steve, a few months back, where he talked specifically about his book and his all those years being friends with Edward Van Halen, you should go check that out here on the channel. Great watch, and we're going to have him back. So that's coming up probably next week. So stay tuned for that. This is on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as a post, and please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, get the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page. Thank you in advance for all your support there, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.